Hello, everyone, and welcome. I just wanted to welcome you to our special interview. We have Jamie Holtom here today, and he is from North Bramley United Church with Dr. Justine, and they are going to be really talking about our health, but really how our spiritual and our belief systems really play into the impact of our health. And so please help me welcome Jamie and Dr. Justine today.
Thank you, Angela. This is, I think, such an important topic. So thank you, Jamie, for taking the time with me this morning. As for me, this has been a journey as well, and I am sure it is for others. With Maximize Living, we do try to teach about maximizing your mind and your spirit as the number one essential. Managing stress with that essential. So that's why this topic is so important, along with the other four essentials: maximizing your nutrition, maximizing your nerve flow, maximizing your exercise, oxygen, your muscles, and minimizing those toxins. But this is number one. So for being here. For me, this is a huge deal. You know that I came from parents who were divorced. I was kicked out of the church. I felt lost. I was atheist. I thought, life sucks. Nobody wants to follow me with my dream to play hockey with the boys. So I left all faith and just said, if it is to be, it's up to me. I'll just push the river. If it's going to happen, I'm going to do it. And it's with my husband, Blake Broker, that helped lead me to faith, and with chiropractic's help and with your help. And you've had the opportunity to rebaptize me and my son. So we are proud members of North Bramley. But today I wanted to focus on this healing journey. At the office, there's so much despair. This is a week of 5 patients talking to me about suicide. And the despair that they have, one even hospitalized for almost over 2 weeks due to the anxiety and the stress of COVID. So this is just a really, really tough time for people.
Mm-hmm.
To have your help, to bring light and hope and with this despair. So my first question is, how did you get into ministry? From this athletic background, and we love our workouts together. How did you go from, to be a gym teacher and do sports, basketball to ministry?
Yeah, no, that's a great question, and really glad to be with you, Justine. And as you were just describing, introducing your own story there, I can't not say how grateful I am for the way God's been working in your life, and to have a front row seat and see that. I was kind of getting moved just you talking about that, and I think that's what can happen, and just so really glad to be good friends and the life that we get to share. And it's been cool to see the way you've grown in your faith over the years. And hey, we're all still growing, right? We're all still growing. It's cool. That's part of the spiritual journey, So, but yeah, for me, it's an interesting story. Like I was on track to be a phys ed teacher, and I'm like, sports has always been my thing. I didn't grow up in church. Like, it was really a case where we went occasionally, but it definitely wasn't like I wasn't like one of those kids in our youth groups and grew up in the church. And so for me, phys ed was always kind of where I was going, because I love kids and I love sports. And then what happened was there really was a calling. Like I unpacked that word. Like, what does that even mean? I just had this sense. Here's how it happened. So I remember I was almost at teachers college. No, I was almost done teachers college. And people were saying to me, "Hey, here you're going to be a phys ed teacher." And I'd say, "Yeah, I guess so." And like, my own answer was boring me. I knew something wasn't right. Like, I didn't have the passion for it. And I realized, long story short, that I was being called to ministry. And it happened through several things. I started getting spiritually curious. I started reading the Bible in high school. And don't get me wrong, it took a while to get through it. I reading at night didn't work for me. I'd fall asleep. You know what I'm saying? But what was going on was God was doing something in me. I was growing spiritually, because that's where it starts. It's not just about leading people in faith. You got to receive that, experience that for yourself first. So I was getting really curious through high school. There was a day where I remember it was a Sunday morning, and my parents had been away. If they're watching this, my apologies if they don't know this story, but my brother and I had a big party, right, on the Saturday night. And the Sunday morning, I'm walking to church on my own, right? And all of a sudden I stop, like, what is going on? Something's happening here. Like, and all that was God was doing something in my life. And then really it tied into my purpose. Like, what am I going to do for my life? And I didn't see myself as we were involved in the Catholic Church at the time, and I just got some great friends who are awesome Catholics. So that's awesome people, and people of faith. But for me, as I had this call to leadership in the church, I didn't see my life as a priest, as far as I always thought I have a family and, that kind of stuff. So anyway, my dad ended up going back to church, and he hit a United Church, and I met a young pastor, young minister there who came out of a sports background, who'd become a minister. And when I saw him, I was like, okay, that I can see for my life. And it kind of just went from there. And it was crazy because I'd taken kinesiology at Waterloo. I just finished my Bachelor of Education at Queen's. And then I just felt we were just getting married. And right after we got married, in fact, the week we got married, I said to my wife, Katrina, I said, I think this is what I'm supposed to do. I'm supposed to go back to school. It was 4 more years for theological school, right? Yeah. And I'm not I love to learn and grow, but I'm more of an activator. So, but the peace that I had around this decision, it just felt so right. And it has continued to. I love my life. I'm challenged too in lots of different leadership capacities, but love what I get to do. It's a privilege. It's a joy. And there was a calling all the way along that especially when I said yes to it, this peace that was way beyond me, because, it didn't make sense. Like 4 more, my buddies were like, okay, yeah, but 4 more years of school. Anyway, it all worked out. Here I am.
Good. And isn't it awesome how the people and the pieces came in that you didn't even see were there or would come, but they were there. And I think that's even in this time.
Yeah.
Some of the toughest times when for us is I got the opportunity to have my kids work with me, which, to have all 4 of us in the office working together, that was a blessing. And so you can always find the parts of the puzzle that even in the tough times that are good, right?
Yeah.
And that need us. It is a tough time right now, and people are facing so much despair, whether it's a loss of job or not being able to see a loved one.
Mm-hmm.
I know, for me, I can't see my grandmother unless she has to get quarantined, and then it's not like you can't see her at all.
Yeah.
And she's turning 95, and you want to be there for these events in time with our seniors or a family, or we're just feeling like we're scared. What would be your message?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think the first is to recognize that it's hard, like it really is hard, and be okay to name that. We did a series right out of COVID, like, because if you remember back March, like, weren't we all in this place where, okay, March break is here, so we're going to take 2 extra weeks, so there's 3 weeks, but after that, surely things will be back to normal, like, right? And then you just quickly realized we are not going back to normal anytime soon. But even then, I think you think like by September, surely and so. I just think like, wow, like this is going on longer than the uncertainty is really hard. And I guess what I was going to say was we pivoted right away when COVID happened at the church, and we did this series on hope. And we broke that. It felt like a gift from God, to be honest. We had this acronym for hope, where H was for honest, to just be honest about how hard it is, to be real about it. O was for opportunity. As you said, God has brought opportunities through this that wouldn't have happened otherwise. You, in the case, getting to work with your whole family for a little bit. We've all got those. P was for prayer, like just to pray more than ever before. And E was for expectation, to anticipate or expect that God could and will do something good out of this. I think we're still there. In fact, I keep coming back to that because as this goes on, those 4 words are even more important for me. But I think part of it is to be honest about how hard it is, how real this is. Things like depression and anxiety and stress, they're like, don't sugarcoat it. Like, just to name it is partly, I think, one of the most important things we need to do. So then out of that, take a break once in a while. Be easy on yourself.
Yeah.
Some of us, I think I could say, Justine, you're wired like me in this way. Like, it's just, okay, let's do more. Things are more efficient now, so I can do everything from home, so I can work even more hours or whatever it might be, right? And so just to recognize that it's hard, to be easy on ourselves, and though there's been an efficiency and you can connect with other people online and more people and it's more accessible, I think it's also a challenge, and just to recognize that these challenges are very real. So just to be easy on ourselves sometimes, simply recognizing how hard life is right now. And then also to look for the opportunities within that, to look for things that a question that I got from a mentor was, what are some things that are happening through COVID that that are new and that you want to keep doing when COVID is over, because it will be over at some point. And I know we don't know when, but it will be. That's another thing I think to keep in mind. There's hope in both today. That would be very much the Christian gospel, that there's hope right now, in every moment of our life, even in the ones that are the most challenging. If we're able to stop for a moment and just look for the blessings, there's always something to be grateful for in the very worst, even that life can throw. So there's hope right now, but there's also hope in what is still to come, and that though we can't see it, because we don't know, nobody knows when this is going to be over. Like, that's part of the challenge, I think. But just to know that to have hope that it will be over one day, that this will not last forever. And when you look at history, things have happened, over time, where it was very hard. There's been wars, there's been pandemics, there's been the Spanish flu. There's been things like that, and it's a good time for us, I think, to look back in history a little bit and to recognize that though in the midst of it, it feels like this is never going to end. It will. It really will. And to find hope both in today, in those blessings for today, however simple it might be, but also to trust that it will be over one day. And we will, like, hey, Mom, I don't, but my mom will be able to hug us again one day. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's killing her. And so to know that's it's going to happen. It really is going to happen. And that hope for today, like, just those simple blessings. I was talking to a young adult yesterday, and she was so excited because she lives in this apartment building, and the gym had closed the last few weeks because of all the numbers going up. And they reopened the gym, obviously with specific safety measures, and only 2 people in this little gym at a time. But she said, I can't tell you how happy that makes me. So, like, those little blessings, like, they're there if we look for them. And maybe we need to hold on to those more now than ever before. Yeah.
And what would you like? Because some people call this like spiritually dark times, or the dark winter you even hear on the social media. I don't know how, like, it makes people question evil, or where it came from. How could this be? How would you help somebody who's saying, well, the hell with this. This is just so bad. I don't believe in anything anymore.
Yeah, great. No, that's a great question. And I mean, there's a question I think that it alludes to, which is, why do bad things happen to good people? And that's, I mean, a question been asked over time. My wife Katrina, some will know our story. We lost our son Lucas back in 2000. He was 2 years old, and this certainly, I think, when we experience these kinds of things in life, which is kind of what we're experiencing now in different ways, loss, challenge, how unfair, like, this isn't fair. Like, it's not fair. Nothing's fair about this. Like, as we were saying before we started, COVID isolation sucks. Like, it does. I hate it. Everybody hates it. And this,
I miss my
yeah, right. You can quickly go into a downward, like, why? Our experience was that we were never going to have the answer to why, and why can be a very paralyzing question sometimes. And so where God moved us, shifted us, and I remember the night it happened, sitting on our couch with little Leah, who was only like a couple months old, on the floor in front of us. I never forget it. And it was just we had this revelation together, my wife and I, and it was like, okay, you know what? That's not really going to help us. People have asked that question forever. No one's ever really got a full answer on it. Like life is a mystery. It's complex. It's unfair sometimes. Like that, we live in a broken world. Like we really do. And so for us, there was a shift from the question why to the question how. Okay, so how are we going to survive this challenge that we had experienced in the loss of our son? How are we going to survive COVID and this pandemic? And I think that's a more helpful question for us. It's much more empowering. It doesn't mean it's easy. Like, it doesn't mean it's easy, but the how takes us to, I think, a much better place, a healthier place. It's things like get your workout in. If you can't get to the gym, like do 10 push-ups every morning, whatever. Like, just do something. But that gets us to the how. Call a friend every day. Text a friend. Reach out to others. The happiest people I see these days are the people that are helping others. So do something to help somebody. Like, again, that moves us to the how. Like, even in this conversation, right? You can just feel the difference in the energy from, oh, why me, why us, why this, so. And I'm not saying, like, actually be honest about how real it is, but move to the how. How can I survive this? How can I make the most of this day? I'm gonna play some ping pong at lunch today with our 14-year-old son Caleb. I'm excited about that. All right. Yeah. I mean, I can't meet with our team. I can't, I miss everybody. And like Sundays online, like there's a piece that I love, but there's a piece that I hate because I just miss people. But I'm going to play ping pong at 12:30 today with our 14-year-old son and make the most of it. So I would say that would be a practical answer to moving from, through the spiritual darkness, which is absolutely very real. And again, I think it goes back to, we live in a broken world, and we know that right now more than ever before. But it doesn't mean that we can't still look at how can I make the most of this day, and how can God help me to do that.
And for those who want to connect, or they're feeling lost, like they're not getting the connection, how would you suggest connection in a spiritual sense to help them?
Yeah. Well, we have something that we encourage people around spiritual practices, and at one point we called it 15 minutes a day with God, and whether it's 15 minutes or 5. And I remember when we started, some people said, "What if it stretches to 20 minutes or half an hour?" Like, the idea was the idea was to have some daily time with God, and I think now that's more important than ever. I know it's been a lifeline for me always. But even now, even more than ever, just to take some time, for me, the beginning of the day, to get grounded. If it's meditation, meditate. If it's scripture, use scripture. If you like to journal, if you've never done this before, reach out to somebody who will help you with it, because it's not as hard as you think. I think sometimes people like, oh, I've never done that before, but it really is possible. But that's been again, the people that I find are the healthiest these days are and not just spiritually, like as I agree with what we've said before, Justine. I heard you in the introduction. It's about your whole life, and this is a huge part of it. John Ortberg, a Christian leader and author, pastor, he says God doesn't just care about your spiritual life. God cares about your whole life. And so those rituals, like, how do you start the day? How do you begin the day? Take some time to just don't rush into it. Take some time to pray, whatever that might look like for you. Take some time to get some exercise. Some people do, 60-minute like intense workouts, and you can still do them at home. Some people go for a 5-minute walk, but just, what's your ritual? Have a glass of water. Like, but I think those practices, those rituals right now especially, are really, really important. And because everything's so different, we can lose them so easily. So I know I've talked to people who have recognized that, and they said, I got to get back to what I used to do. And I would just encourage that.
And at church, for rookies like me, and then sort of the newer you do some acronyms. The thank you, please, TSB, and in the acronym of pray just recently. Can you share that with us for some of the ones that maybe just a little bit new in talking to God and figuring this all out? What are acronyms, and how we can, just start our day and start it easy?
Yeah, no, absolutely. Because I think often people want to do this stuff, that like they're inspired, if you will. Like, yeah, of course, it makes sense. It's a good idea. I'd like to pray, but I'm not sure how. Right. And so TSP is one of the simplest ways that I know how to pray. In fact, I use that. I'll tell you how in just a moment. But T is for thank you. S is for sorry, and P is for please. And I journal those every day. It's a kind of a prayer to God, and the thank you takes me into a place where I'm reminded of where God was at work yesterday, and just thinking about some of the things that happened and some of the people. And for me, that really helps me as I enter into this day, just to take some time to be grateful for what happened the previous day. So thank you. And I think that anybody can do that. It's kind of like, it's reflection is what it is. And it's a great gift. And so that's the thank you part. The S is for sorry. And it's not meant to beat ourselves up at all. It's really just meant to confess, to be real around it, maybe in my own life. And I, for me, often, I'll have there'll be things like fear, and I was a little afraid on that one, or maybe I've said something that I think I said that the wrong way, and it might lead me to follow up with somebody the next day to say, hey, sorry, the way I said that didn't come out the way I meant, I think, or whatever. It just leads to or it could be sorry around just lamenting the way the world is today. Like, it could be like I just want to express that to God, my sorrow for the loss that I'm seeing in other people's lives, not just my own, or the reality of the challenge that we're in. But the sorry, just to kind of name that. And the P is please. It kind of takes you into today, what today's going to be on. Hey, I pray for this meeting, and you maybe even do some imagining and envisioning of the way the day is going to unfold. I often will pray through my calendar as I'm thinking about what's coming up that day, and it kind of prepares me in a very different way than if I just ran into it on my own. But very simple. I remember one time there was someone who was very new to the church and new to faith, and she'd come to see me around this very issue. She wanted to learn how to pray, but wasn't sure how, and so I told her this, and then I said, so why don't we try it? Like, why don't we just pray now? And it was like, really? Like, we can just do that right now? And so all I have to say, like, just go for it. Like, give it a shot. There's no right way or wrong way. I think sometimes people think prayer is by some spiritual leader with poetic words, and that's really not what it's about. Prayer, I think, in its best form, is simply a conversation with God, and anyone can have that. In fact, there's a passage in Matthew where Jesus says, "Come to me as simply and honestly as you can." And I think I just love that, just to be simple and honest and real with God. And it's not about flowery or poetic words. And then as people move along, the TSP is often like me expressing to God. Sometimes it's good to take some time to listen, because in any relationship, in any conversation, there's an opportunity for both directions to happen. And I know for me, that's more a growing edge. I do a lot of talking and expressing, even my relationship with God. So to sit and be still, to listen, to meditate, is another part of prayer. But it may be just being still for 5 minutes and having a word that's almost like a mantra. It could be hope these days. It could be peace. Jesus is one that I use, but just that's another piece of prayer. Yeah. The other piece, I was to say, quite practically speaking, it's kind of like working out. Like, if you don't schedule it, it's so easy for it to just to be something that, hey, I wish I could, or one day I might, or So if you really want to do it, I really would encourage, like, saying, hey, every morning at 7 a.m. till 7:05, that's what I'm going to do, or whatever it might be. And sometimes people like to have a place where they go to pray as well. Just maybe feels a bit different. Doesn't have to be anything fancy. That's for sure. A chair that you might use, a room, whatever it might be. But just to get practical too, a time. Michael Hyatt says, what gets scheduled gets done. And I think it's true with prayer too. You can pray on the fly. You can pray as you're driving, eyes open, obviously, sort of thing. But there's something about, I think, dedicating some time as well and scheduling it. Mm-hmm.
I know for me that one of the things that made a difference was knowing I had to do it moving. Like, it was better for me to walk or run in the woods, or just like, once I changed it from sitting to moving, it worked better for me. So I had to find a different way than, say, what I was brought up to do.
Yeah.
Find what works for me. What would be simple ways that you would add this in a family? Like, what family has kids and they're busy. What is, like, just a few daily steps that they could integrate this into their home?
Yeah, absolutely. So and for us, like, that's really important for us. So our kids are 20 and 18 and 14, and so this has been, honestly, if you say, hey, Jamie, what's the most important thing in your life? I feel privileged to get to be a part of a lot of things, both in our church and around the city, and it's awesome, and I love it, and I'm grateful for that. But there's nothing more important to me than our kids growing in a relationship with God. And I know that I can't control that. Like, that's got to be their own decision in their own time. But man, like, there's nothing more important to me than trying to at least create the space where there's an opportunity for that to happen. And so that this is something that we've really been just care deeply about. So for us, it's been simple things like saying grace at dinner time. And then it's not just saying grace. And there's, if you're not sure how to say grace, like, there's lots online. You can print one off, whatever, but just saying grace for us at dinner time, which actually kind of, if you back that one up a little bit, for us, it also means trying to orchestrate things so we're together at some point for a moment where we can say grace at dinner time, which doesn't always work out with the way life goes, but really working at that. For me, like, there's purpose in that. Like, that's, I like to hang with our guys. I like us to kind of be together because we're all over the place. But to make sure we try to sit down and have dinner on a regular basis and say grace together and check in on their days. The other piece for me is just almost as life rolls out a little bit. So a couple of things, like our guys would see me spending time with God in the morning, so they know that's part of what I do. And I don't know that that's what they do yet, But I think one day they might be at a point in life where they say, yeah, Dad had this, like something was going on in the morning times. He came out, like kind of fired up for the day. I need some fire for the day. So you're planting seeds as you live it out yourself. And I think that's really important. And talking about these things with your family as well, in a very natural way, not in a pressure kind of way, because it just doesn't work, well. And then just looking for the opportunities. And so we talk about COVID bringing opportunities. So there's two in our house that it's happened. One is our middle son, Cameron. He's been doing landscaping over the summer, and it's coming to an end now. But as a result, he was up early every day. And so he would come out. I'd be out in the back deck doing my prayer routine and reading the Bible and doing some scripture and journaling. And so he would come out and sit with me for a few minutes. And so since he'd come out, I'd say, hey, buddy, can I say a prayer for you before you head out? And we got into this ritual where every day he would get up, and before he left, he would come see me, or I'd walk with him to the door and just say a quick prayer. And our guy Cam, like, he doesn't pretend, like, so if he didn't want it, like, he'd say, hey Dad, this ain't my thing. And no, but it was obvious that he was receiving that prayer and wanted that, actually. So it just kind of built into the routine a little bit if you look for those opportunities. For my wife Katrina, because of COVID, we talked about how COVID has offered us opportunities that weren't there before. Because of our scheduling that changed, she was at home. So we were able to pray in the mornings. We would work out and have a quick breakfast, and then 5 to 9 say a prayer as we head into the 9 o'clock meetings or 9 o'clock class. And so that got us on a path where we've been praying together as a couple. And it's something I've wanted to do for years, but it was just tough to find the time. COVID actually gave us the opportunity to live into that a little bit. So yeah, just kind of, those are some ways that have worked in our house. That's for sure. I know work in others.
For us, it was nice. My son got to do Alpha Youth at the through the church, and Blake and I got to do a marriage Alpha, right?
Yeah.
Things that we would not have made time if hockey was on and all the sports was on. Neither of those things would happen. So what are some of the things through North Bramalea specifically for those who are lost, who are just need to connect a little more? Just watching stuff online isn't enough connection for them.
Yeah.
Some of the things with North Bramalea that people can connect and feel some of that love. How would they go about doing that?
Yeah, no, absolutely. So several, like you mentioned Alpha. So Alpha is a great experience for really just growing in your faith, getting to know who God is, and it's really set up for all people. Maybe people have been around a little bit the church or the Christian faith, but want to kind of go deeper with it. Maybe people haven't been exposed at all. Alpha's set up for that, to come and ask questions and be able to talk about things, and a very non-judgmental atmosphere to really be curious and explore. I've seen atheists come to take Alpha, and it's just been so, they felt open. And I mean, one of our things is we really want to be a church where we say people can belong before they believe, and because otherwise, where do you go to even ask questions or explore this stuff? So Alpha is set up for that. It's really a great experience. We have Alpha for youth. We have Alpha in the evenings and in the daytime now for adults. And then, as you mentioned, Justine, we have Alpha Marriage, which just helps couples, whether they're married yet or not. We've had lots of couples take it who aren't married yet as part of their almost pre-marriage work. And it talks about communication and date nights and just some really practical stuff, as well as your family background, because everybody in a couple, in a relationship, brings a past with them, and it's good just to kind of get that out on the table, if you will. So yeah, no, those are all great ways. So Alpha would be definitely like a number one option. We also have something called small groups, and because especially right now, it's all by Zoom, just because that's what we need to do for safety, but it still allows people to connect. And so small groups, or we started something called Zoom Church, because on a Sunday morning we have an online product, if you will, as far as lots of going into our worship experience, which is great, but you don't get to connect with people like you normally would. And so we have something we're calling Zoom Church, where people connect after their online worship experience for a few minutes, just to check in. How's your week? How's life? Maybe talk about the service a little bit, pray together. So those would be ways: Alpha, small groups, Zoom Church, as well. And then the other one I would add is we're really trying to be, like many of these days, on social media, just because it is more accessible for more people. So we have Facebook Live every day at noon. We'd started it in January before COVID. We'd started Facebook Live on Mondays. And we thought, oh, isn't that great? Like, we'll do it once a week. And that was a stretch for us, we thought at the time. Anyway, when COVID hit, we just realized we need to do this every day. So right now there's Facebook Live every day at noon. And then we also are just starting now some devotions in the morning, Tuesday and Thursday mornings at 7 a.m. Shorter, like just a 5 or 10 minute devotion, but those will probably spread to every day over time. So those are ways to just trying to connect with people.
Well, thank you. I think they're cool because I have my small group and my Zoom church, and we've been enjoying church in a different way, having a laptop while we all eat breakfast together after our workouts. So it's changed, but we're starting to find different ways to connect. So we are loving it as well as a family in just a different way. Thank you so much for the interview. I think this is just so important. And remember, with the 5 essentials of health, with Maximize Living, we want the number one to be spiritual health, managing your mind and your spirit, because I think that helps guide all of our other decisions for our nutrition, for our exercise, for our minimizing our toxins. Because when we're in a stressed out state, we make bad choices. Period. Most of us do anyway. So, this is definitely a leader in being as healthy as possible. So appreciate you so much today. You want to kind of just end us off today with that TSP. Just praying for the new year, for a start, and that hope that we need in these dark times or times of despair, and just to bring love to everybody who's listening.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Love to do that. Thanks for having me, Justine. Love to. Let's pray to close. Yeah. Loving and gracious God, we start with thank you. We thank you for all that you give us each day, as we talked in this, for the little blessings that sometimes we'd miss if we didn't stop to thank you. So we thank you. We praise you for the people that we do still get to share life with, for family, for friends, for opportunities like this, communities like this that gather online. We also come to you with our stories, our sorrow for the state of our world these days and the challenge of this pandemic. Maybe as we head into this new year, there are things that you're leading us to do differently as we confess, as we consider where we've missed, where we can do better, and know that you empower us to do that and to be that, to live even healthier lives than we've ever lived before, more important now than ever before. And so we say, please continue to bring your hope, that reminder that this will not last forever. That even in those days where we feel like we're in darkness, where there's a heaviness, and we all feel it at different times, especially through this, that your light would come into that darkness, oh God, that you would breathe your life, your new life and possibility, and give us that mindset and empower us to make the most of this day and trust that there's better days to come. So we thank you again for this time and for your presence, for your love for all of us. In your name we pray. Amen. Amen.
Well, thank you. I wish everybody an awesome night, and be in touch soon. We have lots of upcoming talks every Tuesday night, and we just want to bring you more and more information, love, and help you to handle these times, these tough times, but to handle them with ease. So thank you so much, Jamie.
Thanks, Justine. Thanks for the great work you guys are doing.
Thank you.